Good afternoon, Hawks. Coach Hunley here with another adventure today. We are in Richmond, Kentucky, just a few miles north of where our school is at. We are here at the Lake Reba complex where you and your family can go. This is a public area to come fish, hike, and there's some different activities. And some of you may have played some sports here on the complex like baseball or softball or soccer. But behind us you can see Lake Reba, and I have two partners with me today. This is Mr. Klein and Miss Johnson, and they are officers with the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife. And they're here today to do a little connection video with our fishing video. So thank you guys for being a part of us, and you kind of want to tell us a little bit about what we're going to learn today?
Yeah, so we are actually repurposing trash into fishing gear. So if you guys don't have any fishing gear, we're using plastic stuff today.
And we're also going to talk about some cheap and effective ways that you can create your own fishing equipment to go fishing at home.
Okay, Hawks, so we're going to take a look into some ways that you can create your own equipment if you don't have it, and maybe you can get out and enjoy some fishing like Coach did.
All right, so the first thing that I'm going to talk about is I have made some fishing line out of a plastic bottle. What I did is I took scissors and I cut the plastic really, really thin. Now, to put weight on it, I have put a rock on here, because if you don't put a rock or any kind of weight, this line is going to float and you're probably not going to catch any fish. Now for the hook, what I've done is I have took a tab off a can and cut the middle off right here and put a little sharp point on there, so if you guys have some worms, some grubs, you can put that on there and maybe catch some fish.
Okay, Hawks. So like she's saying here, if you remember back to Coach's video out on the water, I had a couple different fishing poles with me, and Mr. Austin had some different fishing poles. But this is one way, if you don't have a fishing pole with fishing line, that you could actually take some plastic, a water bottle, and with your parents' help, cut it really thin like she said, and maybe find some metal, whether it be a pop tab or a paper clip or something, that you could actually make a fish hook with.
Yeah. Now the next thing that I have is you can take a 2-liter bottle, and what you want to do is cut it in half, just like I have, and then put the top just like this. Now this is going to catch minnows, really small fish. Some bait that you could put in here is maybe crackers, bread. What happens is the fish swim in here and then they can't get out. They can't figure out how to swim back through this little hole. So then you can catch some bait.
So the next thing we're going to talk about is building a cane pole. All right, it's a few simple materials that you need, and you don't necessarily have to have a piece of cane. You can use any type of stick, and what you want is a piece of electrical tape about every foot along the pole, and we're going to take our fishing line and we're going to start right down here at the bottom, and we're going to tape that fishing line. Now we're going to run this fishing line along the pole, and where those pieces of tape are, we're going to tape that line on there. All right, now some people will want to ask, well, why don't we just tape the line to the end of the cane pole? And the reason is, by doing this, that line is going to give action to the whole pole. So it's going to bend that whole pole, and it's going to make it stronger rather than just tying that line to the end. When we get up here, you want to have your last piece close to the tip. We're going to tape it on there. And now we're going to make sure we have about the same length of line as the pole. All right. And we'll cut this line. And now what you can do is you can tie your fishing hook to the end of your cane pole. And you can see here what I'm talking about with it giving action to the whole pole. When that fish bites on this line, it bends that whole pole.
Okay, Hawks, so you see that there's some different things that you can use. Like you said, cane. You might not have cane around your house. If you don't, if you could find a long enough sapling, a small tree or something, you could do the same. Take the limbs and the leaves off of it. Basic tape that you could use, and just a small piece, probably 8 or 10 feet of fishing line, and you could tape that on there, and you could have a pole that you could use to fish, and it wouldn't have to be like Coach Hunley had or the ones that Mr. Austin had as well.
The next thing we're going to talk about is how to use an old plastic bottle as your own fishing reel. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our piece of fishing line and we're going to wrap it around where that cap goes. Take a little piece of tape, wrap that tape on. And we'll take our cap, we'll get our cap screwed on, hold that in there tight, and then you can pull out as much line as you want. Alright, and we'll cut that line. And now you can tie your fishing hook to the line, and you can use it like a lasso, twirl it around, you can cast out, and once a fish bites, you can grab that line and you can reel it in by wrapping it around your bottle. And so to tie that hook onto your cane pole or onto your plastic bottle, you're going to use the improved clinch knot. So we're going to take our fishing line and it goes through the eye of the hook. All right, now we're going to twist that hook about 4 or 5 times, and we can pull the same end of the line through this hole that we have created right here. Once we do that, it has created a new hole up top. Pull it through, and then it will not cinch down. There we go. And then it'll cinch down tight. It's easier if you, on your fishing line, if you give it a lick, it'll help that line slide down, and it'll also help you from having a tension break, from something snapping that line off there. So you can give it a little lick right before you tie that line down tight. Now, before you go out and you go fishing, make sure you pick yourself up a free Kentucky fishing and boating guide. And this will have all of the laws and rules, regulations that you have to follow while you're out here enjoying fishing. The Department of Fish and Wildlife will put out a hunting and fishing guide in the fall as well. All right, now one thing to remember, if you are under the age of 16, you do not need to buy a fishing license. So you all get to fish for free until you turn 16.
So there you have it, Hawks. We've spent time with Mr. Klein and Miss Johnson here today at Lake Reba. Like I mentioned earlier, they're from the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife. They've came here today and they've given us some tips on how to build our own fishing pole out of either a cane or some kind of small sapling. They talked to us about using recyclable plastic bottles as to make minnow traps and fishing reels and some different things. We've learned some knots. We've learned about the publications that they put out for hunting and fishing guides. So I want to personally thank them for spending time with us here today. And I encourage you to get with your parents and that adult that can supervise you and get out in the great outdoors and enjoy some times either on hikes, paddleboarding, fishing, and all other things that you can find out in the great outdoors. There's a lot of places called WMAs, which is wildlife management areas, that are open to the public. And they're in those magazines and they show you different places like Lake Reba and places that you can come fish and enjoy time with your family. So I appreciate you all coming and being part of us today. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
See you, Hawks.